Hi, today I'm gonna show you how to knit this size adjustable, complete, seamless vest. Let's get started. Please check my description box for all the details, such as yarn, needles, and written pattern. This is size adjustable. I knitted it from top to down. And again, this is completely seamless. The vest, how are you gonna knit completely seamless? Because you usually knit front and back and sew them top of the shoulder or on the side, right? But I did it. This is completely seamless. I am going to put inside out. This is wrong side, which is inside. As you can see, there is no seam at all on the side or top. Top, there is little line. That's not seam. That's actually short row technique I used. That's the line. Anyway, before you start this project, there's few rules. Rule number 1, watch this video until the end. Rule number 2, make a plan ahead. Rule number 3, count every rows. So now I am going to talk about a little more detail. First of all, you need to make swatch. You don't really have to knit 4x4. I just knit 4x2, something like that. And I count stitches within 4 inch and then rows in 1 inch. I'm going to use those numbers later. First of all, I kind of want to show you what did I really do. This is the t-shirt front piece and then back of the t-shirt. I started on back side, and can you see the green line right there? That's where I started. I cast on that line and then knit, go down. And then whenever you hit the desired length, both left and right increase little by little. That's an armhole curve, right? And then whenever you reached desired length, end of the armhole, you leave it there. Then go back to where you started, which is the green line, and left side, I start knitting the shoulder part, the little curve for the back of the neck, also kind of, the slope. That part I use the short row, wrap and turn short row. Then flip, front part. Start knitting left side and, create the curve for the neckline. Then whenever you reach end of the neckline, leave it there. Then come back to right side of the shoulder, do the same thing, creates the curve for the back of the neck, and keep knitting front piece until the end of the curve for neckline. Then you connect right and left shoulder with new cast. Then now you're going to knit front piece going down, 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 down. Then whenever you reached desired length, well, same as back piece, you start increase until wherever you stop for back piece has to be balanced out, the same level you have to finish. This is the reason why you have to count every rows, has to be matched, right? And then once you reach same level, back and front, you connect body and then knit rest of the vest. That's it. So starting right there, and then this is the back of the vest, knitting towards to the bottom, right? And whenever you reach, start increasing both left and right. Then whenever you finish increasing, stop right there. Then start left shoulder, making curve, neck, and the shoulder part. Then start knitting front piece, right? And whenever you reach bottom of the neck opening, leave it there and then come back to right shoulder and then do the same thing, but opposite, and then coming back the front piece until the bottom of the neckline. Then add new cast in between left and right, then connect. Then knit down, down, down until wherever you have to start increasing. Then start increasing both sides, left and right. Then whenever you knit until the same level as back piece, connect under armpit, then knit and knit and knit until your desired length. That's the plan you have to make. This was a little bit different way to knit, but I loved it. The knitting technique is so easy except the short row. But short row, nothing to worry about. I will teach you step by step. Anyway, next clip, I would like to talk about little math. Let's get it over with real quick. My swatch was 4 by 1, 18 stitches by 6 rows. I'm not going to use rows. First of all, I measure myself. I decided 38 inches. It's going to be loose vest, but I only need half of this because I am going to knit only back piece first, right? So 38 divided by 2 is 19. Let's do the math. 4 inches versus 19 inch equal 18 stitches versus X stitch. This means I have 18 stitch width in 4 inch. Then what about the, how many stitch in 19 stitch? The math is 4 times X equal 19 times 18. X equal 19 times 18 divided by 4. X equal 342 divided by 4 is 85.5. So, what this means, At the bottom of the front piece and back piece, well, the widest part of the front and back should be 80 stitches each total. However, do you remember what I said? I start from top of the back piece and knitting down, then increase 15 stitch each side. So I have to subtract those increasing stitch from 86 stitches. You know what I'm saying? Well, let's do that. 86 minus 15 minus 15, which means 86 minus 30 stitches because, both sides, right? Equal 56. This number is my cast on number. And in the middle of the written pattern, well, it's not really middle, kind of, where I wrote the yarn and needle, I put the suggestion, cast on number for every sizes for actually women. So you should maybe compare if you want. Or if you want me to figure it out, I can do that. However, you have to make a swatch and tell me the stitches, how many stitches within 4-inch, and then what's the measurement for you, right? The widest part. Then leave the comment. I will figure it out for you. This is not the end. I just want to make sure one more time because this is the most important part in this video. This is the swatch I've been talking about. 18 stitches within 4-inch across. I didn't use the, rows. And next clip, I made a mistake. I put the wrong numbers. It says 17-inch, 76 stitches. That's wrong. That was my original plan. Anyway, 19 inches and 86 stitches at the very widest part, according to my, math, right? And then, remember, 15 stitches increase for both sides. Okay? So, I have to subtract that 30 stitches from 86 total. So what I did is, coming from the swatch, I have 18 stitches within 4. So what about 19 stitches, right? Then I did the math and I figured it out. 19 stitch should be 86 stitches total. Then I subtract that, the increasing. 15 plus 15 is 30, right? So 86 minus 30 is 56. And this green line, that's the cast. That's that's your start, right? So now we can start. I am going to make 56 casts to start. Let's start. The blue one, that's my main color, and I need contrast color of yarn just for starting. I'm going to use a little bit different technique. Well, cast on itself is same. Just use the same, the thickness of yarn, number 4. And then make 56 cast on with contrast color. Has to be contrast color. and you know why. Again, you have to watch this video until end first. Otherwise, you can't really make plan. All right? Anyway, so I'm going to make 56 cast with red yarn. After I made 56, you can cut the yarn because I'm not going to use anymore. There we go. And then I want to start with knitting. So push the project to the other end so I can start with knitting. Because if you're knitting flat, okay, after the cast, turn the work and usually, wrong side, right? But this way, you can start with knitting side. It doesn't really matter, but, I did that anyway. And then start stockinette stitch, which is knit on right side and purl on wrong side. And I did about 20 rows, but not finished yet. I want to talk about something. So row number 1, knit, row number 2, purl, and you just repeat row number 1 and row number 2. And this is actually super easy part, but I want to show you something, so bear with me. This is end of the row number 1, which is knitting, and I'm knitting flat, so I am going to turn my project soon. And I want you to see the stitches at the very bottom. I'm actually going to tell you why I, use the red yarn. The reason is right here. Can you see the stitches right there? Yeah, that's the stitch. Those stitches I am going to pick later on. Because again, the concept of this vest is seamless, which means I have to, pick up stitches later. And this way, it's much easier to pick up, not knitting up. All right? Well, I will, talk about it later. So you will see what's really going on later, okay? So use the different color of yarn. Okay, so I knitted it about 20 rows. And what I'm going to tell you is, about the increase in stitch later on. I said 15 stitches total increase to create the armhole curve, right? But I only increase 10 stitch to make a curve. And rest of the 5 stitches, I increase 5 stitches when I connect the body. So 10 stitch increase, I need 20 rows because I increase on the right side and wrong side, I just make a purl. Okay, so from top of that, back piece, knitting, right? And then you stop knitting when you want to start increase starts, which is 20 rows. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I stopped 20 rows to make sure when you want to stop knitting. In other words, when you want to start increasing. This is customized size adjustable vest, right? So whenever you need 20 rows, make sure, okay, here it is. This is the line I want to stop. In other words, this is where I want to start increasing. So you have to make a plan, all right? You can use your own t-shirt. If you're knitting for somebody else, grab, their t-shirt, the most comfortable t-shirt, and then make a plan. You can do the math for length as well, but, I didn't really, okay? I grabbed my t-shirt and then kind of, look and think, okay, maybe 20, rows more or not. I was thinking a lot. All right. So now I decide where I should stop. This is the one. Okay. I knitted it total of 40 rows. And again, do you remember my 3 rules? Rule number 3, you have to count rows, okay? Because, remember, you have the other side of the vest. So make sure you count every rows. Anyway, I knitted a total of 40 rows. It's really up to you for your project. And then I am going to start increasing. I'm going to use only right side to increase. Knit 1 to start, then make 1 right. Pick up the running thread like that and hook onto your left needle. Make a V shape front, then knit that running thread. This is make 1 right. And then knit until last 1 stitch. Right there. And there we go. This is the end of the knitting row. Knit until 1 last stitch, and then you make 1 left, picking up the running thread, and the other way you hook onto V shape is at the back. Now I drop the stitch. There we go. V shape at the back. So I knit that V shape, the back loop. This is make 1 left. Then knit 1 last one. Then turn the project or purl on wrong side. And repeat increasing row number 1 and increasing row number 2, total of 10 times. Which means 20 rows total. All right? So only right side, increase, make 1 right and left, and wrong side or purl. So, you know what I'm saying? 10 stitch increase each side. But you're not going to increase on wrong side. So total of 20 rows. This is the shape I am creating. There we go. And I just want to show you what it's really like. The red line goes top of the back piece, and there we go. Slowly make a curve. And sometimes you think, the my project is not cover t-shirt. Fine, because the neck and arm opening, I will add rib, right? So it will cover. And this will be very stretchy. So don't worry about it. I'm going to show you one more time. Make one right and make one left. Knit one, pick up the thread, running thread there, and hook onto left needle from behind. You have to kind of, pick up. There you go. V shape out front, right? And you knit that running thread. This is make one right. So knit one and make one right. Then after that, knit until all the way down until last one stitch. And I'll show you how to do make one left again. Super easy. Knit until one last stitch. This is end of the increasing row. There you go. And now pick up the running thread, and now you hook onto left needle the other way around this side. The V shape is at the back this time. Then knit back loop. This is make one left. Again, you increase 10 stitch each side. Okay, don't mix up. Total of 20 rows. The wrong side, you just make all purl. That's about it. Which means 40 rows straight and then 20 rows increasing. Total of 60 rows I knit. And the back piece, this is it. All right, I'm gonna leave it as is. If you want, grab the scrap yarn and transfer all the bottom stitch there, because I'm going to knit the shoulder part now. And now I am going to transfer all the cast on stitches onto needle, because again I am going to knit shoulder part. So don't get confused. The stitch you were knitting, now resting. Okay? And now the stitch with the cast on, I am going to transfer onto needle and stitch holder later. Then divide it by 3. This is really up to you. You can divide by completely 3, or you can adjust a little bit. I did adjust. Okay? 56 divided by 3. And I thought, maybe, I want to get a little bigger neck opening. So I moved a little bit. Then I ended up 16 stitch for left and right shoulder. And rest of the stitch should be 24. 16 plus 24 plus 16 is 56. That's how I divide it. And this is completely up to you. Okay? And you can actually divide it later, obviously, after you transfer. Right now, you can't really see, but just be patient. There you go. So I told you I am going to pick up all the stitch. So on the wrong side, it's much easier to see. So pick up the first stitch. That's kind of, on the edge. Don't forget that. Pick up one, and then the stitch in between red yarn, that's the stitch you are going to pick up. Because I'm using, contrast color, which is red and blue, it's so much easier to see, right? If you're using, same type of color like black and blue, it's almost hard. It's almost, invisible, right? So, and you can, untie the red yarn little by little, or you can pick up the stitches all the way down and then untie the red yarn. Either way, just do not drop off any stitch. You pick every single one of them. I removed the marker because it's, kind of in a way, right? So I started with 56 stitches, right? So I must pick up 56 total. So maybe this way is better way, don't untie the red yarn, pick up all the stitch, and then count stitch. If you have right number on the needle, then, untie the red yarn. Maybe that's, more safe. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't like this picking up part, you don't have to. However, if you start with, the cast on with, main color, now you have to knit up. You know what I'm saying? Which means inside of the project, there's a little line. If you don't like that idea, you have to, do my way. And this way, seriously, the project is nice and smooth. It's beautiful. And now I count my stitches, and there were 56. So I am going to untie. It was kind of, pain in the neck a little bit, but, for my project, I'll do pretty much anything. Just take your time. And I want to talk about, after this, I am going to knit left shoulder first because I'm right hand. If you start with left, later on it's easier to, connect left and right. So there you go. I transfer all the stitch. Now I have to add markers. For me, 16 stitch, both shoulder and neck opening, 24 stitches. And I just said I am going to start with left shoulder, right? So the right shoulder and neck, opening part, all the stitches goes on to stitch holder because I don't knit them yet. If you don't have the stitch holder, use the scrap yarn and then just separate from left shoulder. All right? And left shoulder, that's the one you are going to knit. Again, I have a stitch holder, so I am going to transfer all the stitch I don't knit right now. And again, I told you that I'm going to knit left shoulder. Left shoulder, still this is back piece I'm talking about. The first of all, I'm going to create a little bit of curve at the back of the neck. Also, I am going to use a short row technique because your shoulder is not straight, kind of gradually goes down, right? Anyway, let's get started. And everybody, same way to do that. Any stitch number you have, it doesn't really matter. If you have less stitch, I think you have to do as many as you want. Okay, so the short row, the slope I was talking about, that part. The shoulder is always kind of going down towards to your arm, not straight. Straight is okay. However, if you use the short row here, right on the shoulder, it fits you better, right? So I'm going to use that technique. And I am going to use wrap and turn short row. So let's do that together. Row number 1, right side. You really have to watch. Right side and left side, different technique. So right side, SSK to start. This is nothing to do with short row. This is the curve for back of the neck. So you do SSK, 2 rows. So I'll talk about it later. So SSK, which is decrease 1. Slip, slip, knit. Then knit 2. Then now wrap and turn. Yarn front. I want to wrap 1 stitch. So yarn front. Then slip 1 purl stitch. There we go. That's the stitch I want to wrap. So how to do? Okay, yarn back. Now I wrap 1 stitch right there. Okay, that's wrap. Then transfer 1 stitch back with wrap. Then turn. This is row number 1. Row number 2, the yarn is out front and purl, so all purl. Just regular purl. Super easy. Row number 3. Again, SSK. One more time. This is nothing to do with short row. Create the back of neck curve. SSK, which is slip, slip, knit. And this is it. You don't do SSK anymore. 1 SSK there and knit until the wrap, which is there's a gap there. So before the gap, that's the wrap stitch. So knit until wrap. So knit 1 and here comes stitch with wrap. And there's a wrap there. You have to pick the wrap. Okay, did you pick? Then pick 1 more stitch from the left like that. That's the wrap stitch. There we go. And then knit. I actually accidentally twist and knit. You don't have to do this. Just, put the needle straight in and then knit there. I'll show you one more time, so don't worry about it. This is unwrap. I just did unwrap. Then knit 2. Then I have to wrap again. Yarn front. Slip 1 purl. Yarn back. I just wrapped and transfer, stitch back, then turn. This is row number 3. And row number 4, wrong side, all purl. That's it. And row number 4, you have to unwrap first and then wrap. All right? And any stitch number you have, you just follow my pattern, okay? So this is, I knit only, the neck side, I just knit, right? So now you have a little height compared to left side. That's the short row. Row number 5, knit until the wrap stitch, which is just before the gap, right? So no more SSK. If you do SSK again, the back of the neck will be deeper. That's it. Anyway, one more to go, knit, and then here comes before the gap, there's a wrap stitch. Pick up the wrap and pick up the stitch with wrap like that. There we go. Then put the needle back in, the left needle back in like that, just like a SSK, and then knit. I just did unwrapped and knit 2. And let's do wrapping part. Yarn front, slip 1 purlwise, and yarn back. I just did wrap and transfer 1 stitch back, and then turn. Super easy. And then all purl on row number 6. And this technique complete on row number 8, which means there's one more wrap and unwrap. I mean unwrap and wrap. There you go. Can you see little, slope? Anyway, row number 7, I'll do together. Knit until the wrap you made the last time, which is one before the gap. So knit until the wrap stitch. There we go. And unwrap it first. So grab the wrapping stitch and grab the stitch with the wrap. There we go. And put the left needle in both stitch, then knit. This is unwrap. And there we go. Knit 2, then last wrap. Yarn front, slip 1 purlwise, yarn back, and transfer 1 back. Then turn. And row number 8. Oh, I guess dropped it, but I saved them. Okay. And then all purl. This is end of short row. However, row number 7, you just did wrap, the last wrap, which means you have to unwrap it next row. But the short row stops right here. Again, if you have less stitch count, you just can do same thing, as many as you can. And if you have more stitch, just, end on row number 8. Because if you do more, you just create more, shoulder height. And I don't think you need it. Okay? And this is end of left back piece. Total rows are 40 and 20 increase, and then 8 short row. So 68 rows for me. For you, I don't know, but you have to remember those rows count. All right? Because you do exactly same length. You do need exactly same rows and length for front piece. Anyway, the back piece is done, but not the front piece. I am going to knit left front piece from now, and count starts from now for front piece. I am going to knit and create the neck opening curve this time, then finally stop. So how big you want for neck opening, it's really, really up to you. So let's start knitting front piece. However, the first front piece, you still have to unwrap. Do you remember? I did, last wrap on row number 7. So now I have to unwrap the last one. There we go. Here comes last wrap. So pick up the wrap and pick up the stitch with wrap, then knit. This is unwrap. And no more wrapping, so just knit until end. This is the front piece, row number 1. And row number 2, all purl. So after this, just stockinette stitch, right side all knit, wrong side all purl. And you just have to repeat row number 1 and row number 2 until where you want to start, neck curve. And I told you I need 10 rows. Then after those 10 rows, neck opening should be done. So, you have to kind of make a plan. All right? And count rows. I did total of 30 rows. And you really have to think. If you, try to make huge neck opening, then now you have to do neck opening and arm, curve. And that makes you confused. So the first one, maybe you should kind of, keep it simple. Anyway, row number 1, knit 1, make 1 right, then knit till end. Because just the, right side shift curve and the left, the arm, side, you don't have to do anything, just straight, right? Yet. So just knit straight after the make 1 right, and row number 2 all purl. So easy. And you just have to, repeat row number 1 and row number 2, total of 4 times. And row number 1. So I said 10 rows, but 9 rows, and there's reason why. Okay, so repeat of row number 1 and row number 2 4 times, and then row number 1, which is increasing, then stop. 9 rows. So I did 39 rows so far. And then this is it for left side for now. You have to kind of, keep those stitches onto, stitch holder, and right side, transfer all the stitch back onto needle. All right? Don't bind off or anything for left side, because I told you this is seamless, and I will use all the stitch that I can use. All right? So the left side, transfer onto stitch holder or scrap yarn, and then now right side I'm going to knit, so transfer all the stitch back onto needle. There you go. Again, I just want to make sure after the short row, the front piece starts. And front piece, I knit 30 rows straight and then create the neck opening curve, which is, I said 10 rows, but only 9 rows. Row number 1, row number 2, 4 times, and then row 9, last increase, and then stop right there. So I knitted it total of 39. Remember, 39. And there is reason why, and you will figure it out real soon. Are you guys having fun so far? I told you this is the most strangest way to knit. So, it's maybe hard to understand, but if you watch my video maybe a couple of times, you understand. Anyway, I have 19 stitch on the stitch holder. And then now, right side, I have a 16 stitch to start, right? What's the difference between left and right? That's right. The direction of the shoulder shape is opposite, right? Always neck side is higher and towards the arm kind of going down. So I have to knit more row close to neck. So, which means I have to start with wrong side. Now I do purl short row. Row number 1, don't worry about it. I'll show you everything. Row number 1, purl 2. This is nothing to do with the short row. This is the create of the, back of the neck. So purl 2 together to start. Okay? And then purl 2. 1, 2, then wrap. Yarn back. There we go. Yarn back and slip 1 purl wise. That's the stitch I want to wrap. So yarn back. Yarn front, I'm sorry. Then transfer that wrap stitch back onto left. There we go. Then turn the work. There we go. And then this time, row number 2, right side, on it. It's a little bit different, but the concept is pretty much same, So you don't really have to be so scared or anything. Row number 3, wrong side. Again, purl 2 together to start. That's creative back of the neck curve. Purl 2 together. This is last one, by the way. And purl until the wrap. So purl 1, and then here comes the wrap stitch. So you have to unwrap. This time, kind of go back the right side. You can see the wrap. This is a little bit tough to see, but there's a wrap. There you go. That's the wrap. So you hook onto left needle like that. There you go. And then purl 2 together. This is unwrap. I'll show you a couple more times. Don't worry about it. And then purl 2. And let's do wrap. Yarn back. Slip 1 purl wise. Yarn front. Then transfer 1 stitch back onto left. Then turn. Super easy. And then row number 4, all knit. And no more purl 2 together from now on. So easy. Row number 5, wrong side. Purl until the wrap stitch, which is one stitch before the big gap, so you will know which one, even though you can't really see the wrap. There's a gap, right? So you know which one. There you go. And from the behind, the right side, there's a wrap around the stitch. There you go. That's the one. Yeah. Pick up that stitch and hook onto left needle, then purl 2 together. This is unwrap. Then purl 2. After purl 2, let's do the wrap. And you already know what to do. Yarn back, slip 1 purlwise, yarn front, and slip that stitch back, then turn. Then row number 6, all knit. Don't you think, short row is easy? Sometimes people are so intimidated by short row, but it's not that difficult. And then this fits you better. Win-win situation. Anyway, row number 7, wrong side. Purl until the wrap. You know which one is the wrap stitch, right? Yeah, that's the one. And then pick up the wrap, then hook onto left needle and purl 2 together. That's it. And then last wrap after purl 2. Yarn back, slip 1 purlwise, yarn front, and transfer stitch 1 stitch back, and then turn. And row number 8 is all knit. This is end of right side back piece. After this, front piece starts. So the row count, same. But the difference is I finish with right side. The left side, I finish with wrong side. That's the difference, okay? That's the reason why I stopped row 39 for the left side, okay? It's a little bit confused, but if you follow my, the instruction, you should be okay. This is end of the right back piece. Well, means back piece is done. Anyway, after this, do exactly same as, the left side. But remember, the first row on the wrong side, you have to unwrap the last wrap. And I'm going to show you, but you have to knit, stockinette stitch 30 rows, right? So I just finished 30 rows, which is, I finished with right side. And then now I am going to create the neck opening curve. Start with wrong side, obviously, because start with wrong side, from the beginning. So this time, row number 1 is wrong side or purl. And then row number 2 is right side, then increase. Increase at the end of the right side row, because now shifting left side, because I'm needing right shoulder and create the curve towards to left. So, increase left, shift in increase. You know what I'm saying? So the make one left, super easy, right? You already done. Just the other way of the make one right? So again, knit until one last stitch and then make one left. Then repeat row number 1 and row number 2, total of 5 times this time. So 10th row is the last increase, obviously, because you increase on row number 2. So if you want to increase 5 stitch, you have to finish row number 2, which is 10th row. So this time make one left, yeah, and then V shape at the back, and then knit back loop. I'm sorry, I was talking about the row, right? The left shoulder total of I knit 39, but this time I'm going to knit 10 rows for increasing. So it's gonna be 40 rows, 1 row difference. Can you understand? Right? But the 10th row will be right side. Totally fine. Because now I have to connect. So I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, this is last make one left. There you go. This is 10th row, the total of 40th row. There we go. So I just knit 40th row, and then now I would like to connect right shoulder and left shoulder. Now you are transfer all the left shoulder stitch back onto the other side of the needle, and direction you have to be very careful from left to right. So the needle point has to be matches in the middle of the neck. Well, obviously, if you go the other way, from right to left, the needle point has to be, the same direction, so you can't knit, right? And then, here's the thing. The left side, I knit 39, and right side, I just knit 40th row. However, this is completely okay. Now you match. The new cast I'm going to add, that's the 40th row. And then I'm going to knit 40th row of left side. So it's perfect. Okay, so the new cast, how you find out? 56 to start minus 19 stitch left and right. So equal 18 stitches left. So I am going to add 18 stitch new cast. No less stitch or no more stitch. Okay, so the total of your cast on number minus left stitch count and right stitch count. That's the number you have to add for connection in between right and left. And then adding new cast, easy, right? You've done this before, probably. For me, 18 stitch total. And after the 18 stitch new cast, just knit the 40th row of left side. And now you balanced it out. And after this, you just have to do stockinette stitch, which is knit on the right side and purl on the wrong side until the arm increase starts, right? this is the reason why you have to count. So the right and left, now same level, and then now you knit until the same level of the back piece, then you will connect. After this, it's gonna be so easy. You almost there, okay? Hang in there. After the connection, you just, do the stockinette stitch. Knit on the right side and then purl on the wrong side. For me, I need to do 8 more rows to start increasing. And by the way, if you don't like the size of the neck opening, this is the time you gotta fix. If you start knitting more and more, it's harder and harder to redo it. So, I'm okay with this. So again, you really have to think ahead how much, you want to knit for the, for neck opening and arm opening and all that. You really have to make a plan ahead. That's why this was, the rule number 2. Anyway, for the connection part, the new cast, it's a little bit hard to, knit, but just take your time and try not to twist any stitch, and just take your time. And then increasing for the both arm has to be right side. However, because of my the row count, the increase in start row number 1 should be on wrong side, but don't worry about it. As long as you count and the row count is all same, you don't really have to worry about it. Okay, so this time row number 1 wrong side or purl, and row number 2 right side, and then increase both side, and exactly same way to increase as back piece. So the right side, you do make one right, and left side you do make one left. That's it. This is make one right. There you go. V shape out front and then knit there. And after that, knit all the way down. And again, this is exactly same, just that the row is different. The back piece, row number 1 is the increasing right side row. That's the only difference. But I am going to do increase 10 times. So 10 stitches, increase each side, and total of 20 rows. I finish 20 rows, which is I finish with right side, right? So now I'm going to connect both front and back. If you finish with the wrong side because of your stitch count, don't worry about it. You just have to, turn the work and start knitting. That's it, And if you, have the 1 row difference, you can't really match, for some reason, don't worry about it. 1 row or 2 rows difference, nobody knows. All right? And let's prepare, obviously, I have to use the main, the needle, which is 5mm for me, right? And then now I have to connect both front and back, so I have to use the longer cable. Anyway, I am going to add begin marker and then start knitting. I'm not adding any cast yet. Okay, so knit across. Okay, again, if you finish with wrong side, don't worry, just to turn the work and start knitting on the right side. Whenever you connect, you have to be on the right side. Anyway, this is end of the front piece, obviously on right side. And I am going to add stitches. Do you remember, I was supposed to, increase 15 stitch total for each side, but I only increased 10. So now I have to add 5 stitch here. However, front piece and back piece, front piece and back piece. So one side, you have to add 10 stitch total. 10 stitch left side and 10 stitch right side. You know what I'm saying? Obviously. So right here, 5 and 5. 5 for front, 5 for back. So equal 10. However, if you think you need add more cast because you're not sure the sizes may be too small, you can add more cast here. You can adjust the numbers. Or if you think this is way too big, you don't need 10 additional, you can add less. It's really up to you. However, the math at the very beginning was, you're supposed to add 5 and 5 here. So 10. So I don't know if you should decrease or not, but it's really up to you. Okay? So in between front and back, 5 each equal 10 additional new cast here, and 10 new cast the other side as well. Then connect. Again, I'm sorry. If you want to make a little bit more bigger or smaller, this is the time you adjust the number, cast on number. I mean the new cast on number. You know what I'm saying? But, I made a plan way ahead. I did the math, and I'm actually happy with my math. So I add 10 stitch each side. Just follow my, the math and, pattern that I, made. And this is the other side, right? Haven't connected yet, and I see the begin marker. And again, I'm sorry to tell you same thing on and on, but I'm going to add 5 stitch for back and 5 stitch for front. Total of 10 additional new cast, and then connect. After this, super easy, just knit until your desired length. The benefit of knitting top-down seamless vest, it's easy to adjust the length because usually knitting vest is, knitting from bottom to top, right? So you kind of have to decide the length first. So, and I always think, oh my goodness, do I have to buy one more yarn or this is enough and da 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 da. But this way, I can see my, yarn amount and then decide how long I want it, right? Anyway, once I connect and knit, few rows, I put it on and make sure, everything is all good. And I know I want to knit longer rib this time. So I decide, okay, I'm gonna stop for the body and change the needle for rib. The rib part, I use 4 millimeter, one size down. And then, repeat off, knit one and purl one. This stitch count should be multiple of 2. So you start with knit one and end with purl one. If this isn't multiple of 2, which means, the odd number, like, 31 or, 41, something like that, you can actually do the knit 2 together to adjust the number to make it, multiple of 2. So you can start with knit 1 and finish with purl 1. So you just have to make a rib until your desired length. And you just have to be very careful on the first row. And from the second row, you just knit over knit stitch and purl over purl stitch. That's it. And end of the rib, you have to cast off. You can do regular knit 1 and purl 1 cast off, but I use stretchy cast off because I don't like very tense, the bottom part. And I wasn't quite sure, this is gonna be, the loose enough or not. So I decide I'm going to do the stretchy cast off. This is really up to you. So stretchy cast off with the tapestry needle, the first 2 kind of purl 2 together and do not drop any stitch off. And then knit 1, knit first one, then drop that, stitch off. That's it. And repeat, same thing, purl 2, but don't drop any stitch off yet. After knit 1, you drop first stitch off. That's it. And if you pull hard when you do the purl 2 and knit 1, it's gonna be tight anyway. So don't pull the yarn too hard. All right, because you're doing stretchy cast off, and if you pull hard and tighter, it doesn't mean anything, right? And this is end of the stretchy cast off until one last stitch, and that's about it. And weave the ends off, then end of body. Now you do the neck and arm opening rib, but it's all same. So I'm not gonna show you too much, but I'm going to talk about the little tip here. So obviously the needle is, one size down for neck and arm. All the rib has to be one size down. And then just super easy, just knit up. And then, knit 1 and purl 1 rib and then cast off. Neck and, the arm bind off. I just use the regular knit 1 and purl 1 bind off. Anyway, it's done. There we go. Looks a little bit wavy, but don't worry about it. Once you put it on, doesn't really, look wavy. Anyway, the difference between arm and neck. Neck, I still have a little bit, the original stitch. That's it. And for the knitting up, the stitches around the edge, I add markers divided by 4 parts evenly. So I can actually knit up evenly, right? You don't really have to if this is not necessary for you, but I did it anyway. I divided by 4 parts and start knitting up. Obviously count. If I knit up, let's say 20 stitch in between 2 markers, I should knit up, 20 or close to 20 stitch in between, right? So that way, it's kind of nice, same, evenly, even, the rib, right? That's all. But you don't really care. You don't really have to do it. And whenever you knit up, you have to face to right side. And that neck original stitch, you just have to transfer onto the needle. That's about it. And rest of them, there's no stitch, right? So you just have to knit up. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think about the, the seamless vest? Was it easy? Was it difficult? I don't know. I thought it was confusing at first, but when I start knitting and knitting, it makes sense to me. And it's much easier for me to, knit in one piece. You know what I'm saying? I don't like, knitting 2-piece and sew. Anyway, I transfer the stitch onto needle. That's only, tiny portion of the back neck. And then now I have to knit up around. And, the knitting up, there's actually the rule. Well, I don't know it's rule or not, but, knit 3 stitch up side by side, and then 1 skip, and then knit 4th one up. That's, best way, a lot of people say. So knit 1, 2, 3, side by side as much as possible. And then 1 stitch skip, which means kind of, you can actually knit up there, but you skip, then knit up 4th one, something like that. But it's really up to you because there's no stitch. So, it's really hard to say. But the one thing I can say is I'm not knitting up too close to each other. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's too close, too many stitches, and it's going to be quite wavy. And I don't want that. So knit up a little bit less. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of stretched out and it's not going to be so wavy. So that's why a lot of people say, knit 3 stitch up side by side and 1 space, then the fourth one, knit up, something like that. So, they're saying same thing, knit up less. So I don't really have to, tell you much about this, knitting rib, but I use knit one, purl one, rib. But if you want, you can use the knit two and purl two, rib. But if you want to use knit two, purl two rib, you should do same thing as the body rib as well. And if you want to, use knit two and purl two rib, the stitch count has to be multiple 4, obviously. So if it's not, you have to kind of, adjust, right? So again, I just, count stitches in between two, markers, and I am going to try to knit up same number. But if it's not same number, just try knit up close, okay? And don't forget, if it's arm, both sides should be same number. And this is for the neck. And just after the knit up, start making rib, knit one, and purl one. You just have to be very careful on the first row. Start with knit and should end with purl one. And then from the row number 2, knit over knit and purl over purl. And neck opening, you don't really have to count, but I knit 8 rows, then, bind off. For the arm, I knit 7 rows, I guess, little less than, neck. This is, people's preference. So it's really up to you. And then regular bind off, because the neck and arm opening is, the wide enough for me. So I didn't really have to do the stretchy cast off. So I think that's about it. It's all done. Look at this. Beautiful, rib. And can you tell the, the short row part? And complete seamless. Inside, there's no seam at all. And obviously the ends, you have to, leave the ends up. That's the, again, short row line. It's not the seam. There we go. So I don't know whether you like this, the complete seamless, knitting, but I'm sure I loved it. All right. So enjoy knitting. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.